Just officially welcome you. I would say that this is the first official week of Untethered Soul because last week was a little bit more of the introduction. Like, how are we going to break this down? For those of you that weren't here or didn't catch the replay, we're going to keep it super simple. Two chapters a week. The only exception to that is when we get to chapter 7. That'll be just a singleton. But other than that, two chapters a week, same Zoom link. We will meet here 10 a.m. And if you're able to come, please come. And if you have life that pulls you away from the circle, that is normal. And you can catch the replay. But I just really, really hope that we'll all collectively make a commitment to working through this together. Hang on one second. I'm going to send an email, the Zoom link, to one person. And Mare already put in the chat one of the questions that I wanted to start out with. Wow. I mean, this just goes like right into it, right? Like, you are not the voice inside your head. Actually, Dr. No, I was gonna say, yes, you see, you look up Dr. Woo Woo. Your sister is trying to get the Zoom link. Can you email it to her? That would make it just so much easier. And she said the one that's Lisa M. Atkinson 23. She'd like it emailed there. That would be great. You are not the voice in your head. So why do we have this voice? And then the premise is that this voice is for us to make sense of this wild and miraculous, ever-changing world that we are a part of. Like it's just constantly there. And so the whole week was about noticing the voice and noticing perhaps the quality of the voice and noticing how the voice just one doesn't stop and two also isn't like super committed to a certain side or another. Like he talks about the arguments, and I think that was something. I think that was the reflection that I put out in the email for this, which was to yeah, either it's decision making. Wait, hang on, what was that? Yeah, you are not the voice in your mind, but conflicting thoughts, like how quickly. And I think that this is so powerful so that we can see that like this voice is not, like the voice of God or the voice of the universe or some voice that is like assisting us. It's just bopping around. So let's open up with that. How many of you were able to notice your voice? What kind of content of thoughts did you mostly notice it saying? And then Mare, you had already talked about naming the negative voice. And then of course,
Mhm.
y'all, I'm gonna want to talk about the movie Inside Out and Inside Out too. Okay, so we're gonna
Mhm.
we're gonna have to go there. But I'm just gonna open this up. So what were some of the takeaways or the feelings or the noticing that occurred this week for everyone?
You gonna popcorn it or
No, I'm just gonna take a sip of my coffee and I'm gonna wait for that 10 of clubs to get us kicked off.
okay, 10 of clubs.
Mhm.
Um, I did notice it. And what was really fun was I was listening to it again on audio this morning. Good morning, everybody. Sorry. And Phil was sitting in bed and I could see him. He listens because he's got the same voice in his head. So
Yeah.
I I named it Nene because if you've ever heard there's a comedian that goes, "Oh, nay, nay," like, no, no, we don't go there. And that's kind
Mm.
of, I feel like when I hear it, if I say nay, nay, it's like I'm saying its name and I'm telling it no, like I'm just pushing it
Hmm.
further away so I can get back into my own little positive tape that I have,
So
like just little keywords.
you're catching the negative voice that comes through. Like,
Even writing down, I named my negative voice. I'm like, mm, and I had to write my and went the because I'm not gonna own it. I'm not gonna.
oh, okay. Yeah. So Nene, we have a voice. Okay. Others? not a voice, a name. We all have a voice. Like, I'm curious to know what your voice is saying in your head right now. Like, oh, should I speak? Should I not? Oh my gosh, should I go first? Like, I don't even know these people. I mean, like, it doesn't stop.
Right, right. Yeah, that's what it's doing, right?
Yeah.
Mine's I have a pretty good roommate because I've been practicing this for a while. I had a yoga center and we witnessed all the time. That's what we were doing when we meditate. You quiet that mind and get down to the real deal. Um, so it's amusing because this morning I listened and marked up my book a lot and
Mhm.
yeah, it just made all those memories come back. The gnarly ones and the good ones, right?
Of the time when you had the yoga center, those are the memories
Right?
that
Because it
come
takes
back?
a while to quiet the negativity. And of course, it still comes back, but you kind of make friends and just witness and don't take it personal. I say that all the time. You'll hear me notice. Don't take it personal.
Yeah. Well, right, right. Because that voice is just really you trying, it's not you. It's there's something in us that is just trying to make sense of the world. And often we're negatively wired.
Right?
Unfortunately, unless we really work very intentionally at that. Sometimes the very first thing I noticed it when I was skiing, this is a just like a small thing. As I was looking outside, I was like in the warm car getting up and it looked like it was going to be a flat, white, gray skiing day. And I was just like, oh, it looks so, my whole mind is like how cold it is and I don't want to go outside in the cold. And it's just like, okay, stop, catch, notice. Like that's the first thing. I was like, this is my favorite winter sport. Like I love skiing. Like why is this voice wanting to go negative right now? So noticing negative wiring. Okay. Does your voice have a name, Kimber? Or did you find that help?
I didn't think of naming my roommate.
Okay, well, hold that thought because I have another thought to add to this. Okay, who else? What else have you noticed this week as you read through?
So, so I, since I'm a visual person, I drew just some drawings, and I actually feel like I have lots of voices. So there might be like a house party going on inside my in my mind. So I drew little stick people, and I wrote on them fear, judgment, shame, confidence, hatred, guilt, and I just put all of those on there. And then I would sometimes say like, okay, who wants to speak? You know, and a lot of time, judgment is a big one for me that likes to talk. And another thing that I did was I just did a stream of consciousness of like, okay, whatever thought's coming, and I wrote it down. And then I was laughing because at one point it was like, just, like check the mail or something very basic.
Yeah.
But then it was like, rest more, take more action, clean more, let it go. It was like all of these, you should be more firm. You should be more gentle. You should, all of these back and forth. And then I read it back to myself and I really did just laugh at it. Cause like, that is,
You can see, right? And you can see that voice is not like that's a really powerful thing between, especially that juxtaposition of the free form writing between do the dishes, take a nap. It's just like, what do you want? Like, no wonder it's like he calls it like a little psychotic thing in there. And I'm with you on the fact that I was like, oh shit, like there's a lot of voices in here, like a lot. And who's speaking to me and who do I like when they're speaking to me and who is like more of that nay voice, like that, the negative voice where you're just like, shut up, or you be kinder to it. But the fact that it's such a versatile voice, and you said that you noticed the voice of judgment come up. So
oh
you
yeah.
drew like stick figures and just
Oh yeah, just
names?
very fast, like a little hangman, like because it came out so fast, and I just let it come. And I think what I've noticed, I feel kind of like Kimberly. I feel like I've done a lot of these types of exercises for a long time. But in the sense of where I'm at it, I still don't feel like I can get completely still and be aware of everything. But we talked on that other call. I feel like once I do okay, get all of this chatter out of here, and I don't have to like accept it. I can just let it speak.
Yeah.
And then I can get back to my breath and I just get relaxed. And then I can write and I can feel it. It does seem like another voice, like a stream of conscious voice,
Mhm.
but it's like wisdom that there's no way like I feel like me, Beth, has this wisdom. And so that's what I am trying to understand is if I'm not the voice, what about this one thing that I'm hearing? Am I the translator of the wisdom and giving it a voice onto paper? And everything else is my ego that wants to be popular, wants to be accepted, doesn't want to fail. And it's like broken into everything that's worried.
Wow. So like when the wise voice, when that voice that you were like, damn, that was good.
Yeah, that's
Like,
not
no,
me.
right. If we're saying that we are not the negative voices, like then are we not the wise voices? Who has thoughts on that or has experienced something similar to what Beth is just sharing?
I do.
Yes,
It's
Queen,
all
you
about
got
Eagle
this.
Road. I'm very judgmental on Eagle Road.
Oh God.
So I'm like, well, aren't you the best driver in town today? You know? And and then I'll say, you know what, maybe it's a new driver, or maybe it's, someone who's really little and they can't see over their steering wheel or something, and then I'll kind of come up and kind of probably confirm that it's probably someone who does struggle on Eagle Road. So I
That your
can
intuition probably
reconcile
was
that.
right.
So, I do quickly judge and then I'm like, wait a minute, so that's two different voices speaking. So that's an example
Right.
of something that happens every single day.
And like it's this week was all about noticing it, right? Just noticing it, being aware. Is there I want to ask, is there anybody, and again, and like speaking of judgment, like there's zero judgment here. Is there anybody who had a particularly hard time even being aware that there was a voice inside your head that was talking?
I didn't have a
I
hard
never
time.
identified it as a
Oh,
voice, but geez, I mean,
We'll come back. What,
We
say that
had
again,
we had
I
Glenn?
said I never really identified it as a voice. It was just, that situational Tourette's that comes out, and I start screaming at people and for no damn reason.
Yeah. Okay. So like just not even know like and that's really
All right,
the
you
key to
notice that
this.
you're doing it. Yeah.
The key to this is being like, oh gosh, it's
Yeah.
awfully noisy in there. There is something that is continually trying to make sense of the world. Chandra, you were also pop unmuting at the same time.
yeah. I noticed that my voice is super bossy. It's like you can only relax and have that cup of coffee when you've done yoga, you've meditated, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm so like bossy to myself. I'm very like regimented, structured, bossy. And then I noticed that I not only have my voice, but I have voices from all these other people. The voice of my father, the voice of my husband, the voice of bosses from 5 million years ago. You know what I mean? And I'm like, those are those people. I need to give their energy back. And then what am I thinking? And then what I try to do is I try to say, you know what? These are thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. Don't be so bossy. You're allowed to have your coffee. How about we just have our coffee? Like, how about we just, like, Bridget, go look at the sunset? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, why don't we take a moment? But it's like I struggle with that bossy side of myself.
Okay, so that bossy voice is the loudest voice that emerged, just like Beth was saying, that judgmental voice, maybe Lisa as well, like, or a negative voice. So starting with the predominant voice, because what I want to propose here is an extension. So on New Year's Day, after the intention setting circle, I just chose to watch some of my favorite, you know, fun Pixar movies. And one of them, if you guys haven't seen it yet, is the new Inside Out 2. So how many of you, like you can raise your virtual hand or you can jazz hand, how many of you are familiar with the Pixar story of Inside Out? I see some jazz hand. I see like, you know, and then other people going, no. Okay. Inside Out it's a brilliant, I actually think it is such a brilliant, I'm gonna even call it a film. It's a Pixar movie for kids, but it really is a film, and it's about this young girl. Her name is Riley. She's 11 years old in the first one, and you go inside her mind, and she has a panel of voices. And very similar to what Beth said, she has, well, there are five. The predominant voice in her 11-year-old self, and just remember this, the age matters. The 11-year-old self is joy. That is the main narrative in her mind is joy. Then there are some other characters that are constantly with her in the first film: sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. Okay, so she's got five voices in her head, and it goes through her life story. You know, she's just going through life, but it's the voices in her head, how they are perceiving the world and directing her and like being in charge of her memories. It's little complicated. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it because it's exactly, I'm like, oh, the creators of this must have read The Untethered Soul or have that understanding that perhaps it's not even one voice in our head, but there's a whole panel, and it really is an emotional response, us trying to make sense of the world. Now, if you haven't seen Pixar 2, not Pixar 2, Inside Out 2, she's now 13 years old and she gets a system upgrade. So there are new emotions. And the main character of Inside Out 2 is this emotion called anxiety.
Mm.
Embarrassment also shows up. Ennui, French character, love it, shows up. And envy. And so that is her panel, now her upgraded panel. And it's something that I started playing around with this idea, you know, having just watched this movie and then starting Untethered Soul, and then like really listening to what happens in my head and how many different types of voices there are. And a lot of my voices go into my work and my business and marketing and what I need to do next. Kind of like what you were just saying, Chandra, is kind of like the bossy pants, like where it's like, you got shit to do, girl. Like, what are you doing? Like taking a nap. Like, let's go. Like, you should be doing this or that, or, you know, and it's whenever you hear the word should, right? Like there's something heavy in that. And so I started seeing mine as a council. And this won't be a shock for those of you that are Magi students of mine, but there's like a council of queens in my head, and they're all serving different purposes. But this Queen of Diamonds, you'll love this, Kimberly, being a Queen of Diamonds, like she's like my go-to girl, you know, like she shows up and she for me is like I see her in my mind as very much a combination somewhere between Beyonce and J-Lo, right? So she's this, like boss woman, like let's get shit done, and she's organized and clear and focused and direct, you know. And then when I freak out and stuff like that, there's always my Queen of Spades, who is the go within and is very like calming. And so it's a way for me that I have been allowing myself to see there's sort of a reason for all of the voices, and there is definitely an anxious voice in my mind too. But the queens, I chose the queens, and those of you that aren't really familiar with the Magi, it's okay. That's not like what we're talking about here too, but queens are masters of a certain area of life, and they're masters through service. And I just identify very strongly with that queen energy. I'm not a queen by my birth cards, but these queens are, they're a part of me. And I really want to listen to the queens rather than there are other voices that are maybe lower vibe that are not that are not that, but it's just I'm just being playful and like kind of like when I catch a voice, like calling it in, like who are you? Like, and what's your purpose? Why are we having this conversation right now? I'm just trying to ski and you're talking to me about all these like business ideas. Like, can I just ski? You know, like, so I just want to see have how many of you might like that might be helpful to think about. Do you have a full panel in there? And does that give you some comfort knowing that, we're not psychotic. We are just trying to make sense of the world. I'm gonna take a sip.
I like the idea of the panel. I was really playing, as I was noticing this week, I was really playing with what thoughts are coming out of pattern, coming just out of, that this is my loop.
Oh yeah, just like I have been doing this.
Yeah. And then deciphering, then pulling those out and going, okay, that one then no longer serves me. And
Yeah.
kind of like starting to, I guess, I'm picturing going through a colander. What is that when you sift? I'm sifting.
Yeah.
I've been sifting these thoughts and just saying, oh, that's part of a pattern. And just then kind of not negating it, but saying, okay, that pattern no longer serves me. I want to focus on this. So yeah, I relate to your panel. I was just looking at it a little bit differently. Yeah. And I do feel one of the things that I wrote down though also was when is this my intuition? Yes. And when is it an old pattern?
Yes.
When is it a red flag that,
That's a great question. Has anybody else had that similar question? I think Beth, you were talking about it
Beth talked about it. I've been thinking about it ever since Beth said something about it. And to me, it's almost like, I will relate it back to the tarot because that's my frame of reference for things, but it's almost like, to take Andrea's idea and Beth's question and your question, Bridget, and sort of bridge it together. In my mind, it seems like the council, the voices, the different voices are the voices. So the queens, or for me in the tarot, the queens, yes. But then I think the intuition and the wise voice, that's the one that feels like knowing in your body, in addition to the one that maybe you hear as a sound, or maybe you're actually not hearing it in the same sort of way. And I sort of view that as the Empress, the Queen of Queens, the embodiment of the knowing. So you have the mundane back and forth, swords, spades, hearts, diamonds, whatever, and then you have your divine knowing on the inside, and that's that voice. You feel it as well as hear it.
She was taking a nap for me the other day. It's the queen, the queen. I mean, and it's different in the tarot because you have that Empress. There's no Empress in the card deck, but the Queen of Clubs is the mother of intuition, and that's the question, Bridget, right? Like, if we can easily disregard, so that is intuitive as well. Like, just even like when we can disregard a voice that like that's not me, that's not real, that's a voice in my head, that's whatever, that is intuition, following your gut and your intuition by disregarding some voices. But the question is like on if something comes into your thought process where you're like, ooh, is that an intuitive hit, or is that fantasy? Is that dreaming? Is that over exaggeration? I agree with Dr. Woo Woo, where it's like you pull it into you have to feel it in your body. And we're not always present to do that in the moment, to ask that. And that's that acronym I talked about, that SNAP, like stop, notice, ask, and then pivot if you're able to. And sometimes you're not able to, and if you can write it down or send a voice memo to yourself to be like, I want to unpack this, because developing that relationship with your intuition, that is 100%, like that is winter wisdom. When I think about the essence of what winter is, it's that knowing, that deep inner knowing. But then there's the council, like there's all the voices. You got to separate all that out. The psyche, he refers to it, your inner roommate, the psyche.
Bridget, I had a thought on that because I'm always asking, like, how do I know if this is my intuition? And one thing that I think about is sometimes I feel like I wait till it's a massive decision before, is this the right one? And so I've started more practicing intuitive decisions on things that are not like have a lot of weight to them, like with food. Like, am I gonna have raspberries or like a donut or something? Or just paying attention to like, what does a yes feel like? Like, I know for me, if I'm talking to somebody and I lean into them, like, oh, this is like, you know, and I have had, and you just start noticing, I think, more if you play with it, because there's not a lot on the line. But like, do I quit my job is a really big decision. But I feel like if I practice it more, then if I come up to a big decision, I kind of know what those signs are. And I also did a practice like you did too. I wrote out a negative thought pattern that comes up a lot for me. And then I read it out loud to myself. And then I rewrote it. So it was like the reverse of that. And I brought up all of my memories that I could think of that related to that thought pattern from the time when I was a little kid to like present day. And then I said, well, thank you, because you've taught me this, but I don't need that anymore. And then rewrote my like positive version of it. And then I burned the old one and just kind of like imagined it really, you know, alchemizing into the world. So that was something that was really helpful, if that might help you.
I'm curious to know, and this is very personal. And just by the way, also logistically, I wanted everybody to know that the recordings are shared within the circle of people who have signed up for this. So it's not going to go out into my YouTube channel free for everybody to see. This is going to be a closed circle. So FYI. And then the follow-up question for you, Beth, is would you be open to sharing that specific thought pattern and the rewrite? I understand it can be very personal, so you may absolutely say, not today. Thank you.
Sure. I don't like because I actually burned what it was, but I think I did write down, if I can find it quickly, I'll read it to you. And if I can't, I can give you the gist of it. Let's see. So here is the rewrite of the positive. It says, I am thoughtful because I think things through to be intentional. I imagine different outcomes to try to make things as smooth as possible. I try to think from the perspective of others. It comes from a good place. It is well-intentioned. When things feel complicated, that only means I need to see what can be pared back, what needs to be added, if at all, get someone else's feedback, walk away, and come back with a fresh perspective. So that's like the positive aspect. The negative one is that I overcomplicate things. So I'll get an opportunity. Someone wants to like work with me. And then I think of all these different possibilities. I can overcomplicate it. And then it becomes, oh, I don't want to work with this person. She's great, but she takes too much of my energy. She takes too much of my time. And like, it turns into this, like, I'm a burden. And I can specifically do it to my art business. Like, oh, I make the process for them to order the wholesale for me too complicated. So that must be why they're not wanting to place an order. And it's kind of this idea that like, I'm taking too much.
Oh, and that's something that your voice has been feeding you.
And that I overcomplicate the simplest things, but no matter what I try, I just can't help myself. Like, simple is harder than complicated sometimes.
That's part of the process has been for you. Thank you for sharing that.
I don't know if anybody relates to that. It'd be great to know I'm not the only one, but
Remember, we can always jazz hands and like, yes, yes, I hear you. I feel you. Jessica, I want to share what you have written here in the chat. So new to the group. So welcome to the group. And you haven't read it yet,
Thanks.
which is totally fine. I mean, I always want to give people great, because this is just, that like when you tune in on Sunday mornings, like it's going to be a great conversation, whether you have read it or not. So, but I would like to know more about this. You said it reminds me of the internal family system and recognizing who is on your bus and who is a part of your tribe, who is driving how they are, what do they need?
Is anybody familiar with the internal family system? A little bit. Oh, okay. There is a book about it, and it's really fascinating. So I've read the book, and I also have worked with this within some other groups, some other sacred groups I'm a part of. Oops, sorry, there goes my phone. And so I've been practicing this for years now and have a recognition. And so one of the concepts in my group has been is who's on your bus. And that like you have the wise woman, you might have the queen, you might have your inner child. Um, there is I think the critic, there's a bunch of them, and not everyone kind of relates to all the different ones, but you start to recognize those voices are attached to one of those kind of identities. And there's always somebody driving at every single moment, and they can switch turns on who is driving based on the day, the situation. So one day, I might have my inner child is the one that's driving. And so all the thought processes and the words going through my head are all coming from the inner child. And so what I've learned is that none of these people on your bus are bad. They're just part of who you are, and they're part of your life. So you start to listen to that person and ask that person questions. Like if you're having a really hard time with something and everything that's popping through your head is your inner child, you need to start embracing and accepting who that person is, and also asking the question, asking questions for it. What is it you need? How are you feeling? How can I make that help you feel safer?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
a lot of this, at least as what you guys are talking about so far, really reminds me of that. And again, I haven't read the book yet and I got to catch up, but I'm curious to see how much that really correlates to what he's talking about.
Right, because I do think this is very much in line. It's the inside out, like and it's another visual. So pick the visual that works for you. But how often is it, our young, wounded little girl, little boy self who's driving the bus?
Yeah. Like today, is it your wise woman? Then that's that's your wisdom, truth, intuition is when maybe that person
Your wise, yes.
is the one that's driving the bus at the moment.
Right. I really, really love the idea of having that conversation, which is what I have been just developing this time, reading through it this time, is just like noticing the voices and being like, well, what, kind of like you were talking about, Bridget, sifting through, like, what's the message that you're how are you trying to help me make sense of the world? Because the end of the day, that is what the voice is. I finally wrote that, we're not going to be able to transcend the voices to silence them all, most likely, right? Like that is really a high level mastery that is going to require a lot of deep practice, probably somewhere outside of the noise and ruckus of civilization. So instead, it's about understanding the message and understanding that it's helping you in some way, shape, or form make sense of the world. And sometimes it's just like, oh, look at that, my plant needs water. Like, as I'm looking around, like it could just be one of the many thoughts that come up.
Yeah. And one of the things that, at least for me personally, that I've learned in my work is that the people on your bus are never going to go away. You're not ever going to like overcome them, get rid of them. They're not actually a problem. It's just learning who they are and accepting them for who they are, and, talking to them and working with them instead of against them. And that is actually what's going to help the chaos that a lot of people feel with all the people on the bus who have something to say about everything.
Right.
So that is something
because most
I think is important.
Right. The bus is being driven. It's happening. And it's just, are we, again, 2025 for me is all about helping myself and others consciously create your life, because too often we're not even aware that this whole panel, this whole tribe, this whole, the internal family system, people are like all of this is happening, and we just are responding or rather than responding,
Mhm.
we're often reacting. And instead, it is about taking the ownership of the driver's seat. Whether it's your ship, your
Mhm.
boat, your car, your bus, whatever, like, how do you get back into that position? And it's like you said, Jessica, it's not by like throwing them off the bus and kicking them out. Instead, it's like, hey, I got this. Why don't you go take a nap in the back seat? Here's your pillow, here's your blanket. Do you need some warm milk? Here, get comfortable, take a nap. I've got this. I'm going to ask my inner wisdom, the wise woman, the wise man inside of me to step forth and drive,
Mhm.
from a place of grounded, centered leadership.
I think that's the key. It's like grounded, centered leadership. It's like you were saying, Beth, like when you take a breath, if I could take a breath and what you were saying, Jessica, and say, okay, these voices are good. Thank you, fear, for not letting me go into that dark alley with the man with the knife who's about to chop off everyone's head. Thank you, Miss Bossy Pants, who wants me to get up and write my book. But now
Yeah.
I need to like meditate so I could make a better book. So I think like when you make friends with them and you breathe and you get in your body, but sometimes it's hard to get in the body because it's like so much is coming on, so much is, happening, like the fires. I've got friends in LA. I used to live there. You look on social media, it's just boom, 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 boom. If you keep your phone on, ding, ding, ding all day,
Yes.
it gets you out of it. And it's like, oh, breathe. And then, so,
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah.
And you have to be intentional about that, right? You have to find a way to give yourself the breathing space. So congratulations to all of us here, because we are being intentional right now in this moment about talking about the things that are just going to like remind us of the reality. The reality is not the incessant chatter in our mind. And most of us think it is. Like we listen to that voice. I have listened to that voice, or I haven't even been aware that there was a voice that I needed to listen to, right? Like let's go back to that. But once you have that awareness, and then the next level is like starting to play with it and really see how pliable the voice is. It's not a relentless, like the Nene. That name has really stuck with me, Mare. Like the Nene voice that comes up, because yeah, I do want to whip a Nene.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Oh boy. There was a phase in my momming years where the whip and Nene was very popular, and so was Gangnam Style. I mean, I could do all the dances. Um, but it's not like even as soon as all it takes is noticing that the negative voice is on play. So how do we do that? How do you guys do that? How do you notice that you have a negative voice talking to you, and what usually happens for you?
Can I ask a question too? How do you guys
Yes.
know? How do you know? Because the people, places, and things, everyone else is, if someone's got their own crap going on and it's coming at me, I'm ready to knock them out, right? I'm ready to fight. So now I'm trying to do white flag, yellow flag, red flag.
Ooh.
If you have a pattern and you're an asshole to me over and over and over again, red flag. Then I stay in my bubble, I do what I need to do, and then we're good. The yellow flag is I'm going to give you a little bit of grace because this is new for me and you're clearly got crap going on. So let me not judge your crap that's going on. Let me give you a little yellow flag, give you some grace. My white flag seems to come up last, and I'm trying to reverse that because
Okay.
I'm like, oh, sure, shit on me, be an asshole, take advantage of me, and then I'm like, oh wait, white flag. I want to get to the white flag first, and like not as a surrender to them, but to me and my spirit, my source, my person that helps me walk a better, straighter line. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if it makes sense, but I'm trying to figure out, I know what my voice is because it comes from love. And so when I'm afraid to go do something, that fear, I know what that is now. I see like I have things I have to do here. And yet I sit there and go, well, why would you want to do it? Why would they listen to you? No one's going to listen to you. Why would they want to read your stuff? Why? And it's all that crap.
So that's the Nene voice.
That's the Nene voice. Or I've been doing a certain job for so many years, and when it's questioned, or I question myself because I can't remember something, then it's like, well, who you're trying, who you're trying to kid? You're not this, this, and that. Now I'm like, red flag, red flag. Like I'm just trying to, because that's my pattern.
Okay.
But how do you know when it's you're absorbing everybody else's stuff? Because I'm an empath. So if I walk into a room and everybody's already with their dukes up, it's hard for me to like get my vibration up higher so I can be above all of that and then try to bring everybody's stuff back down and chill out and calm down. But how do you know when it's not your voice? You know your voice, you know your anger, you know your wisdom. How do you know when it's not yours?
It's a great question. Thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. It's like I'm like absorbing all the energies, and then I'm just like, wait, that's not mine, and I'm anxious, and I'm not even me. Chandra's not anxious, but I'm picking up my husband's anxiety, and I'm all flustered. So it's like I think breathing, but it's hard. I mean, shielding is supposed to be something, so I'm trying to just shield myself, but I'm like you, empath city. So I'm working on that too, like shielding and realizing, oh, that's his, walk away, maybe go to the bathroom, maybe take a minute,
I climb into the disco ball, which we learned from our little fearless leader over there.
The disco ball. Yeah, the disco ball for the empath is, well, yeah. Do you want to explain it, Mare?
Well, she told me to picture a giant crystal ball, or a disco ball, and to take with me whatever I want that's going to comfort me, whether it's a pillow, whether it's dirty books, whether it's, like whatever. It's my bubble, man. It's my disco ball. And so I climb in there with whatever I want to take. Usually my cats come, and then we sit there, and I'm just the reflection. It's because a lot of the stuff that we say, we're mirrors for each other. So my thing is, if I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be instantly put in a position where I know there's going to be just chaos and negative and just stirring me up, that little disco ball, the reflections, it's reflecting their shit back on them, and I'm not absorbing it. And so, yeah, I don't do the whole John Travolta thing, but I mean, I could, but I don't. But,
maybe one
Mare, what kind of situations do you like? You knowingly put yourself there? What kind of situation would that be?
I don't feel like I'm knowingly putting myself in there. What happens is if, I'll wake up and I'll do my thing, and then I'll go on my way to work with whomever or with whatever. And then maybe they're having a shitty moment, and maybe they're having, like, they went through the horrible traffic on Eagle Road. And so by the time they get to me, they're just ready. And so when I feel that, I'm like, zoop, nope, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me.
Right. And this goes back to that, pulling back in the 4 agreements. And I think somebody already talked about that. Like it's usually whatever's happening with a relationship with another person. Again, and that's why that disco ball is powerful. That was shared with me when I was having a really hard time uncoupling from my narcissistic ex, was I needed to go into a safe place because I internalized the things that he was saying. And I really, as that empath, I felt like I had done something wrong. And then once I had that disco ball and realized it was 1,000 reflections of him and what he was saying, and that in my own cocoon that I was safe and I could sit with my voice of reason, like that inner wisdom of the inner counsel. But there has to be the intentional awareness of the fact that, we are all reflections of each other, and how to separate that out. And I think the first step is just the awareness, just being aware, that your voice is saying something negative, that it's a repeated pattern. And hopefully by the end of this book, you will have noticed those red flag patterns enough. Yes, mister. That you will start to one, befriend and be aware and have the wisdom of how to handle this when it comes up. You're like, oh, there you are again, Nene. Oh, there you are again, Miss Bossy Pants, or whatever is the strongest, loudest, most crippling voice. And just have that, like, all right, I see you. Do you want to come into the disco ball with me? Right? Do you want to come sit here in
Enter at your own risk.
right? Yeah, and just to start to notice, the first step is just noticing, and that's all chapter 1 and 2 is about. And he talks about going into the shower being an excellent place. If you're like, I still don't know what the voices in my head say or what they are, just take a shower and see,
Yeah.
where your mind goes.
Yeah.
I love
You
that
get those
visual.
affirmations there.
I love that disco ball visual. And I think from there, it's all a practice, right? Like
Yes.
we all, I remember there's been days that I've never called it a disco ball, but there's been days that I'm like, this isn't mine. This isn't mine. And there's been days that I do that like constantly. And then I'd get to a point where like, I'm freaking tired of going into the disco ball. And it would beat myself up for needing the disco ball. But that it's a practice, and I only get stronger the more I practice. And so then it became like, no, this is just part of the game. Like, all right, I get to go spend time in the disco ball and get my armor on and get strong again, get my biceps. It's because it is a practice. The more I practice, and then one day I realized like, 24 hours have gone by and I haven't needed the disco ball. Look at that.
And it's like a regeneration. If you could see it like a regeneration chamber, like a place where you can go in, like that's interesting that you notice almost shame about needing to go into that. Like, why do I need to do this? Because you're a big walking, emotional, beautiful being, and it can be rough. Like, we need to regenerate. We need to protect and love on ourselves and wrap ourselves in grace to just, sometimes just to get to the grocery store and back.
And nothing
Andrea, what's
When I end up needing my disco ball when I'm in my personal space with people that I love and trust.
Say that again.
I have a hard time when I end up needing my disco ball almost by surprise when I'm in my personal space with people I love and trust, right? Like, I think I expect that I need to put on what I call my energetic PPE when I go out into the world.
What's PPE?
Personal protective equipment. In my mask,
doctor.
gloves,
The doctor is
right. So my energetic PPE.
Okay.
I expect to need to put on. I don't expect to need to put it on when I'm hanging out with my guy or my whatever.
Your inner circle, like your home, like your safety.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. I don't, because there's a cost to that, right? That protection, there's a cost, and I don't want to spend my energy that way when I'm at home with my people. And so that's when I have a really difficult time with almost like not doing the self-blame. Why did I let these voices in? Why did I trust? Why did I forget that I always have to have my armor on?
Why?
Well, I shouldn't always have to have my armor on in my mind. And that's when it gets kind of muddy and complicated.
Okay. Right. Wouldn't it be nice to not? Yeah. And I think the only time that we truly cannot, and you could look at it as armor, as protection. I guess that's what armor is protection essentially. But I think the only time that we truly never need it is when we are alone and we are wired for human connection. So, like that again, like, can you ascend beyond the voices, like the monk status type thing? Possibly. And to what end? You really have to disconnect yourself in many ways from other human beings. And, is that what you want for life? That's not my choice right now. My choice is just to befriend the council, the psyche, the inner roommates. I'm going to put an S on it.
Andrea, I don't know if it's in the book we're reading, but it's by him, or if it's like the companion journaling or practice he has. But he talks about like, so the opposite of a shield that I've been considering is actually, instead of blocking, passing through. So like the heart chakra as your valve and always having it open. And so then like if something jarring comes, like, can I let it just like go through me.
Mm.
And like I've just been thinking a lot about this idea of blocked energy and why do like kids have tantrums? Because they're so upset. But when they get on the ground and they kick and they scream and they cry, it just goes,
It goes
you
through
know?
them.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was skiing too yesterday, same thing, had a whole moment, and I was very frustrated. And I really I wanted to hit the dashboard of my husband's car. And I just vocalized it to my family. I was like, I want to hit this dashboard. And it's because I'm really, really frustrated. And they're like, okay. And so we got home. I was like, okay, I'm angry. I'm going to go home and I'm going to scream into my pillow for a long time.
Mm.
And that just like felt really, really good. So trying to let things like, I don't know.
Because we're taught from those young age of tantruming that that's not an appropriate response. When in reality, it probably is the most appropriate thing to do, to just like allow the emotion to move through you. And we can't do that. I mean, there have been plenty of times, right? I do want to like have a tantrum and maybe I've had a few here and there recently. And so it's fine. How do you replace that with a either age appropriate or societally appropriate? And that was really powerful, Beth, for you to notice, because that's where it starts. The noticing really starts with when we notice a change in our body. You start to get that sinking feeling, like literally your vibe is sinking. The energy is, as you go down that emotional ladder, it is sinking and you can feel it in your stomach. Oh, you can also feel it in your heart, like a burning pain in your heart. It could show up like I have often in my left shoulder specifically, like a searing pain somewhere in the shoulder where it's just your body is your internal guidance system. Your body really is so connected to the divine wisdom of your soul, your essence, the hearer, the witness that is connected so strongly to our body that it's how can I take this and honor my body and not like scare the children and break the car.
Yeah, they told me to scream out the window. I was like, no, it'll look like you guys are kidnapping me and crazy. Right. So, but I don't know, but it did feel good to have that awareness to like not like punch the truck and maybe damage, the dashboard, and for me to be okay. Like it's taking me a long time to be okay to be angry. So I'm like, I'm not an angry person. I'm not a yeller.
You know your Enneagram numbers?
I used to. I'm not sure.
I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, which is the peacekeeper. So yes, anger for me is also, and I've had friends that was like, why don't you get more angry about this? And there's all kinds of there's a lot around that I'm continuing to unpack. And like befriending, even like, again, going back to Inside Out, anger is one of the main 5 in that opening panel: joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. And anger like is important. Like we do need to find ways to do that. Exercise is an excellent way to let out anger. I used to be a cardio kickboxer. I loved that. That was a great way to do it. For me, dancing or, singing. Singing is a great way. I know, Mary, you love your Metallica, your heavy metal, and you'll rock out to that and scream, sing.
In the car. Yeah. Can I tell you too, I've implemented that into the grandkids. I got them earphones because I have 2 what do you call them, Suze?
Right.
Neurofabulous. 3 neurofabulous grandbabies. 2 of the girls, and they're 0 to I'm gonna F up your world in like 2.6 seconds when they're that angry. So I got them some earphones and I said, find something that you can listen to those words and it'll like help you quiet down that voice in you that wants to attack your sister or yell at your mom or yell at your dad or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, they're into AC/DC, they're cool with it. So they sit there and I'm like, don't blast your eardrums like your grandmother does, but like listen to something that just gets you out of it for a second. And it is. I mean, my car has really great bass, and the Black Album from Metallica, it is great. When you're pissed, go in there and just And you can yell and scream and hit the steering wheel. No one hears you. It's just you.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Finding healthy ways to allow emotions is huge. Yeah. Kimberly wrote, witnessing in exchange for notice seems powerful. Step outside yourself and witness what the mind is doing. That is our everyday practice for this winter season, is to catch and witness. The big realization is we are not the mind. We're not the body. We are soul spirit. We are the witness. That's so beautiful, Kimberly. Yeah, we are the witness. And so if you struggled to witness, I invite you to take a lovely shower today and intentionally witness the chatter there, what comes up. I mean, water especially seems to, and can you be fully present in washing your hair, washing your face, or how quickly our minds get distracted, and just noticing, witnessing. Yes, witnessing. And that's the unfolding that we're just going to continue to come back to hold each other um, accountable, because we want to be, right? Like I definitely have some negative connotation with the words being held accountable. I will work through that. But I want to close out with our intentions for the winter season for 2025. I've written some down from last time, but we have some new people that are live this time. And wondering if you have an intention that we can support you through this winter. So mom, consistency. Bridget, I have release. Beth, presence. Mare, courage. And then that sentence, I honor my divine feminine. Susan, I embody heal thyself, your work there. But Kimber, Chandra, Jessica, Lisa, does anybody have an intention for this winter season that you want to share, and just say that this is part of what the journey through this season ahead matters to me?
I do.
Please share.
The word is simplicity, and let it be easy is what I'm saying, and have intention through this winter season as I transition from one home to another.
I want an update on that. Maybe we could stay on post.
Sure.
I would like. Chandra, Jessica, Kimber, want me to?
Mine would be presents, not to steal Beth, but it was my birthday and I wanted to really enjoy it. So I visualized a present being opened, and every time I'm not in the present, I try to visualize that present being open, and it helps me get in there. And life is here now, guys. It's not the past or the future, it's here. So that's my intention, presence.
Love it. I mean, yeah.
I'm going for balance. I need
Balance.
balance in my life. Yeah, balance of mind, body, and spirit, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then your intention statement was also, I honor
Myself.
myself. Okay. I
Yes.
honor. Beautiful. I mean, balance is, I'm with you, sister.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
noticing,
Chandra, oh my gosh, presents. I wish we all had presents. Let's be in the moment, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good one.
Thank you.
Quiet mind, open heart. That's beautiful, Beth. Jessica, do you have an intention for your winter season, or something that you'd like to call in? And then, yeah.
Mhm. Um, I I don't have one solidified yet that I'm ready to speak yet. I think I'm still working on a couple of energies for the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
and so
Love it.
I think I still need to kind of sit with that a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And then those of you that did share intentions last week, does anybody want to just check in or share how they're doing, how they're feeling about, now we are January 12th. I mean, I'm kind of stunned that it's January 12th already. And I'm also stunned that it's 11:03 already. So I am aware of the time as your not internal, your external timekeeper here. I am aware. And we're wrapping things up. But I always like to give people a space to, like, if you want to share a check-in, like, how are you doing? It feels like it's moving fast and also moving slow at the same time.
Can I just say this was awesome? I mean, my God, you guys are all wonderful. And thank you, Bridget, for inviting me. And this is awesome. So thank you.
I'm so glad Bridget invited you in. Welcome officially to, Untethered Soul winter season, Soul Growth Circle. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm still fangirling on Beth a little bit still. Sorry, Beth. I'll get over
You see, oh, she's just a normal little human.
Beautiful. Well, next week we're going to read the end of part 1. So part 1 is just 4 chapters. So chapters 3 and chapter 4, we're just going to continue to get into, who are you and the lucid self. So we'll be discussing that same time, same place next week. And I hope that the emails are reaching you. And if there's anything else that comes up midweek, feel free to reach out to me. My easiest email is andreablythe@letloverise.com. And for those of you that don't have my phone number, just putting it in the chat right there, I am better at responding to text than I am at email. And the Queen of Diamonds and I are working through our trauma response to email, whatever that is. I'm gonna get there. Like, I would just be like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's not that, the Queen of Diamonds wants me to get back there and like get on top of my shit, but there's some other, I don't know who it is. Oh, I think it's Henri, like I just want to lay in my bed and not work today. That wins often. So my number is there, and my intention for the year and for the winter season is I expand in service. So I'm just delighted to see an expansion of some new faces in the circle and really great contributions to the conversation. If the group grows a little bit more over this, or the size that we have today, we might even look into breakout rooms for discussions and coming back, so that some of you, and I see you, the quiet ones, the observers, that you might have an opportunity to chat if you'd like to. And I also honor anybody who just wants to sit and receive, because that is a beautiful part of a circle. Sometimes you give, sometimes you receive, sometimes it's all of the above.
I can speak up now and say, this is a good day for me to receive. I have been listening and soaking in and taking notes and trying to, and I'm enjoying the heck out of this book, I think. And, oh, I forgot what I was going to say because you got me all flustered. But anyway, I just need, I know what is, I need to pay attention. Since I've read the chapters, trying to hear my little messages and where they're coming from, and a lot of them I kind of know, and I'm working on a bunch of things internally and quietly, so I don't say shut that up out loud when I think it inside all the time. So
identify that voice, and that's the part of that 7 of clubs for you, that like, woo, the 7 of clubs mind just goes. I mean, I bet you have a very beautiful voice, and also a very hurtful voice that just, the one that you want to say shut the F up to, like, maybe start with that one. Like, who is that? Like, and it really can be a very fun, playful thing. Like, if we have the time for it, though, if we're in the busyness, like, we don't have the time to sit with our voices, but just when you notice that your voice is being really loud and kind of hurtful, just be like, oh, hey there. hey, who are you? What do you want to share with me? Like, and why are you being so mean? Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every comment today. I've really
Beautiful.
sucked it up and, like I said, taken a bunch of notes.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm so grateful for you all. We are 8 minutes over on time. Jazz hands. Have a beautiful rest of your day and same time, same place next weekend. Looking forward to it. Happy
Thank you
reading.
so much.
Enjoy your council.
Thank
Right,
you.
enjoy your counselor. Okay, love you, bye.
Bye.
Bye. I want to stop the record. Stop recording. Did it stop? Recording stop.
Okay.